The desperate call. The crystalline spires of luminous city glowed softly against the night sky, their light dimming with each passing day. What once had been the crown jewel of the luminary civilization, a beacon of art, science, and peaceful exploration, now stood as a fading testament to a dying species. From the highest observation deck of the Central Knowledge Archive, first scholar Celine watched as another distant settlement winked out of existence, consumed by the advancing darkness. The Voidbringers had arrived 3 lunar cycles ago, their massive ships blotting out the stars like living shadows. They brought no demands, no negotiations, only methodical destruction. The Luminary, with their philosophy of harmonious existence and their bodies evolved for intellect rather than combat, had no defense against such brutality. First Scholar, a voice called from behind her. The Council requests your presence. Celine turned to see her assistant, his translucent skin pulsing with anxiety patterns. She nodded solemnly and followed him through the winding corridors of the archive, passing countless luminary frantically downloading and preserving knowledge, as if that might somehow save them. In the council chamber, 7 elders sat in a circle, their luminescence dimmed to conserve energy. Elder Terax, the most ancient among them, gestured for Celine to approach. First Scholar, tell us of your progress. Have you found any civilization that might aid us? Celine projected images into the center of the chamber, star maps, and planetary analyses, all marked with red indicators of rejection or non-response. We have contacted all 17 allied species, she reported, her voice steady despite her despair. The Galactic Concord has ruled that intervention would violate the principle of non-interference in evolutionary conflicts. They condemn us to extinction, whispered one elder, her voice cracking. There is, Celine hesitated, one possibility I have not yet shared. She projected a new image, a blue-green planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star in a spiral arm of an average galaxy. This is designation Sol 3, known to its inhabitants as Earth. It has been under quarantine for over 2 millennia. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers, luminescence flaring with alarm. The Dith world. Elder Terax leaned forward. You cannot be serious. I have studied the ancient records, Celine continued. Before the quarantine, Earth was home to a species called humans. They evolved on a planet with extreme environmental variations and dangerous predators. The Galactic Concord classified them as a high-risk species due to their unpredictable nature and capacity for both extraordinary compassion and extreme violence. Why were they quarantined? Another elder asked. Celine's skin pulsed with hesitation. The records are incomplete, but they mention an incident called the Mars Defense. Apparently, a now extinct predatory species attempted to colonize one of Earth's neighboring planets. The humans' response was decisive. The Concord determined they were too dangerous to join galactic society until they had evolved beyond their violent tendencies. Elder Terax rose, his ancient frame trembling. You propose we ask these barbarians for help. We would be replacing one extinction with another. With respect, Elder, Celine countered. We've analyzed all data from before the quarantine. Humans possess something the Voidbringers lack: empathy. They fought to protect, not to conquer. And our extinction is not a possibility. It is a certainty without intervention. Silence fell over the chamber. The soft pulse of the luminary's bioluminescence was the only movement. We have no choice, Celine whispered. We must call Earth. The transmission traveled through the cold void of space, bouncing off ancient relay stations long forgotten by the galactic community. It was a desperate plea coded in the most basic mathematical language, universal constants that any technologically advanced species would recognize. On Earth, in the underground complex of the Global Defense Network, a system that had lain dormant for centuries suddenly hummed to life. Lights flickered on across servers and monitoring stations as an artificial intelligence designated SIN-TINEL processed the incoming signal. Alert. Extraterrestrial transmission detected. Origin. Lumina System. Classification. Distress signal. Protocol 7 initiated. Commander Elena Reyes was in the middle of her morning coffee when her secure communication device buzzed. The message was simple. Ascension Protocol activated. Worry Pord. IMEDA EOI. 20 minutes later, she strode through the titanium doors of the GDN headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains, her expression unreadable. As head of First Contact Operations, she had trained for this moment her entire career, but she never expected it to actually happen. Status report, she demanded as she entered the command center. General Marcus Chen, her superior, and the only other human in a room full of advanced monitoring systems, turned to her with an expression that mixed disbelief and concern. It's real, Elena. After 200 years of silence, someone out there is calling us. Elena approached the main console, studying the signal analysis. Translation progress. Centennial has deciphered approximately 78% of the message. A smooth, artificial voice responded. The signal originates from a species self-identifying as luminary. They are under attack by an aggressive force designated Voidbringers. Extinction event imminent. Request immediate assistance. Elena's brow furrowed. They're asking us for military aid. Do they have any idea who we are? That's the interesting part, General Chen said, swiping to display another screen. They shouldn't know we exist. According to the archived knowledge recovered from the Mars incident, Earth was placed under quarantine by something called the Galactic Concord. No contact permitted until we met their civilization standards. And yet here we are, receiving a distress call. Elena leaned closer to the screen. Centennial, full planetary alert status. I want the Security Council notified and the response fleet placed on standby. Acknowledged, Commander. As Centennial carried out her orders, Elena turned to the large view screen showing the translated message. It contained not just words but images, crystal cities being consumed by darkness, a peaceful species being systematically exterminated. They're desperate, she murmured. So desperate they'd reach out to a planet under quarantine. The question is whether we should respond, General Chen said quietly. The quarantine goes both ways, Elena. We've respected it for centuries, developing on our own path. Opening that door could change everything, she finished. But can we really ignore this? Before the general could answer, Centennial interrupted. Decryption complete. Additional data packet identified within transmission. The screen changed to display what appeared to be historical records. Ancient by galactic standards, but relatively recent in Earth's timeline. Elena and the general watched in silence as the story of Earth's quarantine unfolded before them. It had begun with the Mars defense, as the aliens called it, humanity's first encounter with extraterrestrial intelligence. A predatory species had attempted to establish a foothold on Mars, viewing Earth as potential feeding grounds. Humanity's response had been swift and utterly devastating, deploying technologies that shocked the watching galactic community. But that wasn't what had led to the quarantine. It was what came after. The reverse engineering of the alien technology, the rapid militarization of space, and humanity's demand to join the galactic community on their own terms. The Galactic Concord, fearful of humanity's potential for violence and their unpredictable nature, had instead isolated Earth behind a technological barrier, hiding its location from galactic maps. They're afraid of us, Elena whispered, the realization settling heavily on her shoulders. With good reason, apparently, General Chen replied grimly. Our ancestors didn't just defend Mars. They obliterated an entire species. Elena's communicator buzzed again. The Security Council was assembling. As she prepared to leave, she paused by the main display showing the fading crystalline cities of the luminary. What would you do, General, if the decision was yours alone? The older man was silent for a long moment, his weathered face reflecting decades of military service. 200 years ago, we showed the galaxy what happens when someone threatens us. Maybe now it's time to show them what happens when someone needs us. The United Earth Security Council chamber was rarely used for its intended purpose. Located deep beneath Geneva, the circular room with its 12 seats had been designed for the gravest of emergencies, when the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Today, for the first time in generations, it served that purpose. Elena stood at the center of the chamber, facing the 12 most powerful individuals on the planet. Her presentation had been concise and factual. The distress signal, the luminary situation, and the historical context of Earth's quarantine. So, Council Chair Amara Okafor said after a heavy silence, an alien species is asking Earth, a planet they've kept isolated for 2 centuries, to save them from extinction. Yes, Madam Chair. The Luminary are a peaceful species with minimal defensive capabilities. According to their transmission, the attacking force, the Voidbringers, have already destroyed several of their worlds. Councillor Zhang leaned forward. And what exactly are they asking of us? To send our military forces beyond our solar system for the first time in recorded history. To engage in a war against an unknown enemy about which we have minimal intelligence. They're asking for help, Elena replied simply. The form that takes would be our decision. Commander Reyes, Councillor Singh interjected. You've reviewed the historical data they provided. In your professional assessment, why would they reach out to us specifically? A quarantined, supposedly dangerous species. Elena took a deep breath. The records indicate that humanity possesses something unique in the galaxy, a combination of advanced technological capability and extreme adaptability. We evolved on what they classify as a death world, a planet with environmental conditions so harsh and variable that it produces species with exceptional survival instincts. She projected an image from the transmission, a comparative analysis of Earth versus other inhabited worlds. Earth's extreme temperature ranges, atmospheric composition variations, geological instability, and biodiversity were off the charts compared to the galactic average. In simple terms, we're tough. We developed in conditions that would kill most sentient species in the galaxy, and that makes us formidable. Councillor Alvarez frowned. You're suggesting our value to them is our capacity for violence. Our value is our resilience, Elena corrected. And yes, our capacity to defend, both ourselves and others. The Luminary have no concept of warfare. Their entire civilization is built on consensus and cooperation. The Voidbringers exploit this as weakness. Chair Okafor's expression remained impassive. And if we choose to help them, we would be violating the quarantine established by this galactic concord, potentially announcing our presence to a community that has explicitly labeled us as dangerous. Elena nodded. That is correct, Madam Chair. What would you recommend, Commander? Okafor asked. Elena had anticipated this question, had rehearsed her answer multiple times. Yet standing there, she found herself setting aside her prepared response. Humanity has spent 2 centuries wondering if we're alone in the universe, unaware that we've been deliberately isolated. Now someone has reached out to us, not to exploit or study us, but because they believe we can help where no one else will. I believe our response to this call will define us as a species for generations to come. The chamber fell silent. Elena could see the weight of the decision in each councillor's eyes, the balance between caution and compassion, between self-preservation and the extension of a helping hand to a dying civilization. Finally, Chair Okafor spoke. Prepare the response fleet, Commander Reyes. You have 72 hours to assemble your team and develop a preliminary intervention strategy. As the council session ended, Elena found herself standing alone in the chamber, the enormity of what was about to happen settling over her. Humanity's long isolation was ending, not with a diplomatic delegation or scientific exchange, but with a military response to a desperate plea. The silent sentinel, Earth itself, was awakening, and the galaxy was about to be reminded why they had feared it in the first place. Humanity unleashed. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, Earth's most advanced warship, and the flagship of humanity's first interstellar response fleet. Through the view screen, the blue-green sphere of Earth grew smaller as the fleet of 7 vessels accelerated beyond the Moon's orbit. "Final systems check complete, Commander," reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson, his fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "All ships report ready for dimensional shift." Elena nodded, her face a mask of calm that belied the storm of emotions beneath. 24 hours ago, she had been selected to lead humanity's first official contact with alien life. A contact that would involve not diplomacy but warfare. Sci-Fi, status of the luminary homeworld. The AI's voice filled the bridge, accompanied by updated holographic projections. Latest signal analysis indicates accelerated Voidbringer attacks. Estimated time until complete planetary collapse, 14 Earth days. "Then we have no time to waste," Elena said. "All ships, prepare for dimensional shift." Coordinates locked on luminary space. She took one last look at Earth, a planet that had believed itself alone in the universe for generations, unaware it had been quarantined like a dangerous pathogen. Whatever humanity found beyond the shift, there would be no going back to that isolation. Dimensional drive activating in 3, 2, 1. The fabric of space seemed to fold around the fleet, stars stretching into lines before disappearing entirely. The ships entered the dimensional corridor, technology reverse-engineered from fragments of the Mars incident centuries earlier, perfected in secret by generations of Earth scientists. The journey through dimensional space took just under 9 days, far faster than conventional travel would allow, but still painfully slow with the knowledge that every hour brought the luminary closer to extinction. When the fleet emerged, the sight that greeted them left even seasoned officers speechless. The luminary homeworld hung in space like a cracked crystal, its once brilliant cities dimmed, vast portions of its surface darkened. And surrounding it, a swarm of obsidian shapes, Voidbringer vessels consuming everything in their path. "They're feeding on it," whispered Lieutenant Chung, the xenobiologist. "Not just destroying, consuming the planet's energy." "Life signs," Elena demanded. "Concentrated in the central continent," Sci-Fi reported. "Approximately 30 million luminary remain, gathered in the final defensive perimeter." Elena's jaw tightened. "All ships, battle formation Delta. Target the Voidbringer vessels nearest the surviving population center. Weapons free, but maintain dimensional shield integrity at all costs." As the Earth fleet moved into position, the Voidbringer swarm began to react. First with what seemed like confusion, then with focused aggression as hundreds of smaller vessels broke from the main body to intercept. "They didn't expect anyone to respond," said Security Chief Diaz, watching the tactical display. "They thought the luminary were alone." "They were wrong," Elena replied. "Fire." The Defiance's main cannon discharged a lance of concentrated energy that pierced 3 Voidbringer ships in succession, turning them to superheated fragments. The other Earth vessels followed suit, their advanced weapon systems cutting through the alien vessels with surgical precision. The Voidbringers responded with overwhelming numbers, sacrificing dozens of smaller ships to probe the Earth fleet's capabilities. Their attacks, energy drains, and gravitational distortions seemed designed to disable rather than destroy. "They want to study us," Elena realized. "We're something new to them." "Commander," Sci-Fi interrupted, "I'm detecting communication attempts from the planetary surface. The luminary are responding to our presence." "On screen," Elena ordered. The holographic display shimmered, revealing a tall, translucent being whose skin pulsed with patterns of light. First Scholar Celine, though Elena didn't yet know her name. "Earth vessel," the alien spoke, her voice translated by Sci-Fi. You actually came. We had almost lost hope." Elena stepped forward. "I'm Commander Elena Reyes of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress signal and have come to assist." The luminary's skin flashed with patterns that Sci-Fi identified as expressing both profound relief and awe. The Voidbringers have consumed 3 of our worlds. We are the last. Our defenses failed within days. How can your small fleet hope to stop them?" Before Elena could respond, the tactical officer shouted a warning. "Massive energy buildup. The main Voidbringer vessel is targeting the planet's core. Intercept course." Elena commanded. "All ships, focus fire on that energy beam." The Earth fleet surged forward, positioning themselves between the planet and the massive Voidbringer mothership. As the alien vessel discharged its weapon, a pulsating beam of dark energy, the Earth ships activated their dimensional shields, technology that existed in a partial phase state between normal space and the dimensional corridor. The Voidbringer energy beam struck the shields and split, fragments of its power dissipating harmlessly into dimensional space. On the bridge of the Defiance, systems strained but held as officers worked frantically to maintain shield integrity. "Now," Elena said, her voice deadly calm, "show them who they're dealing with. Deploy the resonance spheres." From the belly of each Earth vessel, small metallic orbs were launched, propelling themselves deep into the heart of the Voidbringer swarm. Once positioned, they activated simultaneously, creating a complex web of intersecting energy fields that disrupted the Voidbringer's hive-like communication. The effect was immediate and devastating. Without their collective coordination, individual Voidbringer ships began acting erratically, some colliding with each other, others firing wildly or attempting to retreat. "They operate as a collective consciousness," Lieutenant Zhang observed. "We've just given them 7 billion individual headaches." Elena allowed herself a small smile. "Target their command structure. Disrupt, don't destroy. I want them to retreat, not fight to the death." The Earth fleet moved with precision that shocked the watching luminary. Human tactical thinking, forged through millennia of conflict and survival on a harsh world, proved devastatingly effective against the hive-minded Voidbringers. Earth vessels seemed to anticipate attacks before they came, moving with an unpredictability that frustrated the Voidbringers' analytical approach. On the surface of the luminary homeworld, First Scholar Celine watched the battle unfold with a mixture of hope and horror. The humans fought with an efficiency and adaptability that her species could barely comprehend, changing tactics moment by moment, sacrificing tactical advantage for strategic gains, displaying an intuitive understanding of combat that the peaceful luminary had never needed to develop. After 3 hours of intense combat, the remaining Voidbringer vessels began a coordinated withdrawal, collecting their scattered forces and retreating beyond the system's edge. "They're running," Security Chief Dias said, disbelief in his voice. "We actually drove them off." But Elena's expression remained grave. Sen Tai and El analyzed their retreat pattern. Are they regrouping or truly withdrawing? The AI processed the data before responding. "Withdrawal confirmed, Commander." However, their communication burst before departure contained a transmission directed toward the galactic core, specifically toward the coordinates associated with the galactic concord in the luminary records. "They're reporting our presence," Elena said quietly. "The quarantine is officially broken." 2 days later, Elena stood in the Grand Crystal Hall of the Luminary Central Archive, now serving as an impromptu diplomatic chamber. Around her stood representatives of Earth's fleet and the surviving luminary leadership, including First Scholar Celine. "Our people owe you a debt that can never be repaid," Elder Terak said, his ancient form still impressive despite the exhaustion evident in his dimmed luminescence. "You came when all others abandoned us." Elena nodded respectfully. "We responded as we hope any civilization would respond to a call for help." "But not as any would," Celine interjected. "We have accessed our historical archives since your arrival. No species in recorded galactic history has developed as yours has, evolving on a world that should have killed you, turning survival itself into an art form." A holographic projection appeared in the center of the chamber, a map of the galaxy with Earth highlighted, no longer hidden behind the quarantine barrier. "The Voidbringer's message has already reached the galactic concord," Celine continued. "They know that Earth has broken quarantine, that humans have demonstrated technology supposedly beyond your development stage. And what will their response be? Elena asked, though she suspected the answer. Elder Tarax answered, his voice heavy. Fear, Commander Reyes. The Concord feared humanity's potential before. Now you have demonstrated not only advanced technology, but the willingness to use it in interstellar conflict. They will see this as confirmation of their worst concerns. We defended a peaceful species from extinction. Elena countered, anger edging into her voice. We used force only against aggressors. And that, Celine said gently, is precisely what makes humans unique in our experience. You possess both the capacity for tremendous violence and the moral compass to direct it in defense of others. The Voidbringers couldn't comprehend your tactical thinking because they've never encountered a species that evolved through both competition and cooperation. Elena looked around at the surviving luminary city, damaged but beginning to glow again, as power systems were restored with Earth's help. So what happens now? Does the Concord send a fleet to put us back in our cage? They might try, Elder Tarax said, with surprising steel in his ancient voice. But the luminary will stand with Earth. Your people saved ours when the Concord abandoned us to die. That creates a bond that transcends their arbitrary regulations. Celine stepped forward, her luminescence brightening with resolve. The galaxy has existed in a delicate balance for millennia. Commander, peaceful species protected by the Concord's regulations, predatory species contained or eliminated. Humanity doesn't fit neatly into either category, which is why you were quarantined. And now? Elena asked. Now, Celine replied, the galaxy must adapt to a new reality, one where humanity has taken its place among the stars not through peaceful exploration alone, but through the defense of those who cannot defend themselves. Later, as Elena prepared to return to the Defiance, she found herself alone with Celine in the Archive's observation deck, looking out at the Earth vessels in orbit. Your people call it the Silent Sentinel Protocol, Celine said, studying Elena's reaction. The defensive system that had lain dormant until our signal arrived. Elena nodded slowly. Earth has always prepared for the possibility of extraterrestrial contact, both peaceful and hostile. The protocol was designed to protect our planet. Yet you used it to protect ours, Celine observed. That distinction will be lost on many in the Galactic Concord. They will see only that the quarantine failed and that humans have the capability and willingness to engage in interstellar warfare. Then they'll have to learn what the Voidbringers just did, Elena replied, a hint of challenge in her voice. That humans fight hardest not for conquest or feeding grounds, but for those who cannot fight for themselves. As the Earth fleet prepared to establish a permanent defensive position around the luminary homeworld, the first human military presence beyond their solar system, Elena knew that the galaxy was changing irrevocably. Humanity's long isolation had ended not with a diplomatic handshake, but with a battle that would echo across civilized space. The Silent Sentinel had awakened, and for species like the Voidbringers, that was indeed a nightmare. But for others, like the Luminary, it represented something long forgotten in their corner of the galaxy. Hope in the face of overwhelming darkness, and the promise that sometimes the most dangerous species could also be the most compassionate. When Elena transmitted her report back to Earth, she ended it with words that would soon become famous throughout human space. We have taken our first steps beyond our cradle, not as conquerors or explorers, but as protectors. And in doing so, we have found not just our place among the stars, but our purpose.